Yeah, no, is Fawad Alam gonna make this team at least, Osman? Like at least have a little bit of
12th man.
Karachi representation.
12th man. That'd be like the
George,
world's dullest opening combination ever, though.
I'm still worried about the backlash that will come from this. No one's going to watch the whole video to figure this out.
Given how many keepers England have played in the last 3 years, I'm shocked that there's not like one mention of at least one of them in this discussion, man. That's like.
We should probably mention Shaqib, I guess, in the all-rounders, just going back a bit. I guess we're thinking he's not available for selection.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not allowed in the.
Yeah, he's not allowed to fight right now.
George, you were looking for two people. You were looking for people in the world that wouldn't have Bumrah and Couple. You got two of
And
these.
I found them.
I'm glad I'm not a real selector, right? So I'm not having to make a call between these two. But
Ashwin's much better at run-outs.
I'm like the vice president. I have no power. The BCCI vice president. I have no power.
This is the most condescending, this is the most condescending selector, like facilitator I've ever come from.
yeah, moderator, right?
Yeah.
You're a moderator.
Moderator.
Yeah, sure. The thing is, if you pick Kohli as captain, he won't play Ashwin. So just leaving you with that. So it's time for episode 2 of Dream Team. Now we've decided to do away with the past. We're going to be picking the best current Test 11 on this show. Now, just to familiarize all of you with the last episode when we did pick the all-time Asian World Cup winning 11 from the 4 Asian teams that won the World Cup, Osman Samiuddin and Andrew Fidel Fernando both retained their positions on the selection panel, even though Osman, for not picking Imran Khan in that team, was called a sellout, among other things more colorful. And Andrew Fidel Fernando, after his years of critiquing the establishment, has now flipped and seeks a Sri Lankan of the Decade award for pushing Arjuna Ranatunga ahead of Dhoni, Kapil, and Imran. Right. So somehow, Sharda Ogra, who's the only selector who wasn't criticized, is out, and in comes George Dobell for some reason. George, good to see you. Hope you're happy and healthy. And you've already heard the sort of agendas that our last episode had. I hope you're not bringing any to the table today.
No, as long as Dominic Sibley is captain, I should be quite happy.
We can end the show now. Osman, would you like to respond to
we'll make it happen
that you got last time, and maybe you will see a more jingoistic version of Osman on the show today?
Well, I'm going to ensure that Sarfraz Ahmed is captain in this test side.
And Fidel, you came with that one desire last time that you have to make Arjuna captain somehow. Are you coming with any such preconceived desires this time as well?
No, I think there's no possible way for me to top that. So I think I'm gonna chill out and actually just be kind of not dig my heels in on anything today. But we'll see how it goes.
All right. Let's first lay out our rules. Like we did last time, we picked players only from those particular expeditions of the World Cup. This time, on the current Test 11, we're going to pick 12, as it turns out, because we want to keep that little contingency for the extra player. We're going to basically pick a team, a 12-member team that could win a Test match anywhere in any given condition, right? So we're going to start with the openers like we did last time, which was a riveting conversation of Sanat, Sachin, and supporting cast was Ramiz Raja and whatnot. Now, do we have any passionate opening choices? If I just throw the stats out from the last 2 years, Tom Latham is right up there, Karuna Ratne is there, and David Warner is there as well. I'm going to have George take first bite of this because there aren't too many English players that actually demand a place in the opening slot. George?
Look, you could make a compelling argument against every test opener that we're going to suggest.
Yeah.
Which I think tells you how hard it is, and probably tells you that some of the skills have changed in world cricket. I'm not sure I'd go for Latham. He averages 75 at home, and some of the wickets that they've been playing on in New Zealand aren't the toughest. So, I you've got to acknowledge that. I thought, before looking into this, I was going to have to say David Warner. I was delighted to find statistical evidence that gave me an excuse to say no. 24 Test hundreds, amazing. I mean, completely amazing. 18 of them in Australia.
Yeah.
3 of them in South Africa, which is almost the same thing. None of them in India. None of them in England. What if Stuart Broad's in the opposition? Warner's out.
The thing is, if in about 5 minutes from now, we're going to be debating how we can squeeze in Smith, Labuschagne, Kohli, Pujara, Root, Stokes, Babar, then why don't we all come to an accord now that we don't want openers anyway? Just put all of them in the
Well,
team. Unless
this was George's radical suggestion just before we started recording, right? That we could have a side with no openers, given how bad they all are. I was inclined towards
So the sides
Latham, but I
two
think
down.
like the records that George has put out there, and he's clearly done his research. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize he was that much of a home track monster. I think I'd have Dimut in there, and not just because Fidel's on the show, but I think I would have Dimut in there.
He's not going to fill a stadium. He's not going to like make you, raise the beat of your heart or whatever. But Sri Lanka is one of the tougher places to open, just because not only is there seam movement early on, often because it's humid. There's also, as soon as the seamers go out, the spinners are like ragging it square. So it's a tough place to open, and he's done it well for a long time. And he's scored, runs overseas. Very good technique against spin. That average is not going to set the world alight, but I think he's a solid, if uninspiring choice. But I would put him in there as well. My two, I would put in a word for Latham also.
That'd be like the world's dullest opening combination ever, though. Like you wouldn't want to switch in, or you wouldn't want to switch the TV on, right? For that, if you're opening with Dimut and Latham, you'd be like, okay, I might skip the first session here, and just like maybe tune in on the third day or something.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, speaking is the only Indian on this show, and I think I will be bulldozed in time to come. But given we're looking for a little bit of elegance and we're looking for someone who can fill the grounds, and might I just point out that Rohit Sharma averages 92 as an opener in his 5 matches that he's played in 2019. And had he been in New Zealand, I think the result would have been staggeringly different. Are there any takers for Rohit Sharma? George?
Yes.
Looking at the numbers?
Yes.
Do you know what? I would go for Rohit and Tamim. There are lots of flaws. We've talked about this. There are all sorts of problems with the records of all of them. So you might as well go for the two that would be the most fun.
But I would say I'd like to have a little bit of a contrast with Rohit. And so I would still like to have Dimut there just to make it look a bit sensible. That's all. That says more about me than anything.
I'd accept that.
If you're going to have someone that's like a left field choice like Rohit, you need some solidity there, which is why I would say if you're having Rohit, you need either Latham or Dimut there.
I can't wait for this video to go out and we headline it as Cricinfo picks Rohit Sharma as best test opener currently.
And I will make clear that Rohit gets in mostly because, as George has pointed out so well, openers are crap these days. They really are. It's difficult to find a good opener. And you may as well stick with one guy who's fairly solid and then take a chance on another one. And if you're taking a chance on someone, then Rohit's as good a chance out there as anyone.
Are we all in agreement that Rohit Sharma and Karuna Ratne would be our openers then?
Sure.
Very well. I'll give you guys time to think about this. Once we're done with number 12, we can revisit this one last time before this goes into edit. And you can see if you can sleep well with this. Let's go to 3, 4, 5. Are there any doubts at all on Smith, Labuschagne? Or do they both make it? Does just one make it?
Yeah, I wouldn't plump for Labuschagne. I think there are better options. I think I would say even like a Barber. I would pick a Barber, and I'm not sure Barber makes it into this team. But like we're basically picking Labuschagne based on 2 seasons, one in England and one in Australia.
Yeah.
Barber has been better.
6 months of cricket we're picking him on.
Yeah.
If we are picking the best current 11, isn't 6 months of cricket enough?
No, because there is also a little bit of a historical element. We have looked at stats that stretch back to 3 or 4 years as well. Current includes, I think, 3 or 4 years, which is fair enough.
Okay, so let's get
and you need to have a bit of a body of work. I think you need to have a body of work just because we're not picking for specific conditions. We're picking for a team that can do well anywhere. And Labuschagne hasn't proved that yet. So, and Barber has done more to prove that. So,
do 3, 4, 5 not come together and pretty much pick themselves, as in Williamson, Smith, Kohli? And that's pretty obvious, isn't it? You can't leave any of them out, can you?
I'm happy with that. Osman?
I get it. I'm trying to work out who you'd leave out of those 3, and you wouldn't. You really wouldn't. You'd have that's a middle order that can get you runs any day of the week on any surface against any attack. Yeah. You will expect one of those 3 to go, to do it. We've got Smith 1 down and
okay, Williamson 3.
Okay, Williamson.
Williamson is the only one who does it at 3. Yeah. He's
Personally,
the only one of the 3 that bets at 3. Yeah.
Personally, I'd go Coley 5 because of his ability to increase the tempo if you wanted, which he could probably do better than anyone. And so I'd have Smith at 4. But, you'd see what they wanted, wouldn't you? And, 3, 4, 5.
Right. Any other honorable mentions that we'd like to mention here? No Joe Root, George, for whatever it's worth?
You could be a very, very good player and miss out Virat Kohli, can't you? So, I mean, there's no disgrace there. Joe Root's obviously a brilliant player, one of England's best ever, but I don't think he's better than those 3.
And so I think his averages have been affected by playing the majority of his tests in England, but, that's the reality. So what do you do? He misses out. We've got a very, very strong middle order. You can't really do much about that.
Yeah, I'm jumping onto George's argument for the same case that would be made against Cheteshwar Pujara, that would be made perhaps against Kushal Mendes. Plenty of good players, good record, but just a few more players slightly better than them. So they go into 3, 4, 5. We need a wicketkeeper and we need some all-rounders. I'm assuming Ben Stokes would make a strong case to be in this team. And Quinton de Kock does have the best numbers as the wicketkeeper goes. Do we have BJ Watling? Do we have anyone else that we'd like to throw in? Who wants to go first in this? Fidel, you can take this one.
Yeah, I mean, the wicket-keeper one's interesting. I think Watling is a better keeper. QDK just has way more gears in his batting. And they're both good in a crisis. I'd say maybe in when New Zealand really have their backs against it, Watling may be slightly better, but I think there's just enough dynamism about Quinton de Kock's game that I would pick him over Watling. He's not a bad keeper either. I mean, he had a kind of a shaky start, but he's improved massively. When you need quick runs, you would rely on, and you need to set up a declaration or whatever. De Kock is much more suited for that kind of situation than Watling.
And I think, in a team like this, I mean, you want your team to be able to play fairly attacking or counter-attacking cricket, right? And it's not like that top order is going to collapse. So Quinton would be coming in and playing front-running innings anyway, most of the time. But I'd rather have him, I guess. Although BJ, I do like him as a player, and I think he's been amazing. But I'm probably with Fidel on this, that in a fairly shallow field, I think Quinton probably stands out.
George?
100%, yeah. Quinton, coming in at 7, probably.
It's time we discuss the all-rounders. This is interesting now. Ben Stokes perhaps makes the strongest claim. Jason Holder is the number 1 ranked ICC all-rounder. Ravindra Jadeja is a vastly improved Test cricketer over time. So who'd like to go first? Fidel?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think Stokes and Holder make equally strong claims. And the reason why Holder's bowling stats over the last 18 months are insane. But he's only played in, I think, India and West Indies. I think his average in the last 18 months is less than 15 or around 15 somewhere. And his batting average is over 40. Those are like Imran, Jack Cullis numbers. So I don't think that we can really overlook him, though perhaps because bowling is his main suit. We can do what we did last week and have him batting at 8, and he kind of bats a bit lower down as well. Whereas obviously Stokes' main suit is his batting and those fantastic out of the blue match series turning innings that he can play. And I would say Holder's got to be in there, but there may also be room for Stokes at 6 and Holder at 8.
If I was picking a team, I'd look at Holder and I'd say, he's a lot better than a lot of people think. He's a lot better than a lot of people think. He's a serious player. But just, I think, as Fidel said, just for the body of work over the last few years, I'd have to go with Stokes. And I don't know, I'm looking at the bowling attack. I don't know if Holder sneaks in right now, but I would definitely, in this position, I would have Stokes over him.
I think, you've got to look beyond the numbers a little bit. I've seen Stokes win tests in Sri Lanka, actually in Colombo with the ball. He did it in Bangladesh with the ball. He won a test with the ball in Bangladesh. We know that he's a very fine batsman at this stage, who is at his best on the big occasion. There's no World 11 that I would leave Ben Stokes out of. And also, he's an incredible fielder. I mean, you just want him on your side, don't you?
I can live with it. I think Holder's been done a little bit of a disservice. The strongest argument for Stokes is actually the one that separates the two of them is the fielding. Because Holder's not a bad fielder, but Stokes is out.
Stokes is a different level, yeah.
So that, I think Yeah, so I think that's probably the thing that clinches it for Stokes.
You can live with it. I think Jason Holder will fall victim to us having to compare him with the bowlers that'll have to make this team ahead of a Jason Holder, whereas Ben Stokes somehow we're happy with him as the batter that can change the game at 6. So we've locked in seven spots. Again, I remind you, Rohit Sharma at the top, Dimut Karunaratne. I'm putting that asterisk along with Rohit. Williamson, Smith, Kohli, which went 3, 4, 5, went like a breeze. Stokes 6, De Kock 7. Now we decided we're going to pick 12. I'm assuming the extra position was to accommodate an extra bowler, looking at conditions. So we've got 5 spots, and we've got obvious contenders: Pat Cummins. Bumrah's record's been phenomenal since he's started Test cricket. Neil Wagner, Rabada, and of course we haven't even mentioned the English seamers just yet. So George, I'll let you have first crack at this.
2 of the seamers pick themselves, don't they? Would anyone, anywhere in the world, leave out Bumrah or Cummins?
Okay.
Yes. Go on.
Well, I would have Cummins in there. I would have Cummins in there for sure.
Yeah, me too.
And Bumrah, I would my only hesitation, actually it is a hesitation, is that I think he's not had enough of a body of work in Test cricket right now. Plus, like the little injury and the post-injury return, he's still phenomenal. But I just think that his body of work, there's others in that line, and we'll talk about Bolt, we'll talk about Rabada, who I think present a far more substantial case to be included in the current best Test 11 than Bumrah would right now.
Yeah. I think he's got the most away Test wickets in the world since start of 2018.
You would argue though
And he
that
hasn't bowled
Bumrah isn't played in India, which in a way isn't his fault. That he's managed to play only overseas. It's not like he's played in India or played in the subcontinent and doesn't have the numbers. So there's that. But yeah, Fidel.
No, I was going to make that exact point that he hasn't played in Asia yet. So I think like when you're picking for an all conditions team, you just need to see all of those stats. Just a record of how he did in conditions that would test him in a different way than West Indies or New Zealand tested him. My reservations are also kind of based on the fact that he has such an unusual action, and Sri Lanka's been through this very many times with spinners, especially where and with Malinga as well to an extent, where the unusual action, the fast arm that comes across, all of that stuff does really well for a brief period of time in Test cricket. You can get away with it for much, much longer in limited overs cricket. But that lends itself to coming out of the gates really hard and doing really well in your first couple of years, in your first year and a half. And so I would just hold my judgment back until Bumrah has had longer to settle in, until other batsmen around the world, Test batsmen, have had longer to figure him out, and to see where he need to evolve, does he evolve? I think those questions I would like to see answered before I put him in a World 11.
Let's talk about Bumrah in comparison to who perhaps makes a case that's stronger than him. So we're obviously going to talk about Rabada now, maybe Neil Wagner and Trent Bolt. So let's lock in Pat Cummins at 8. No problems there.
Yeah.
Done.
All right. Let's move on then. Since George has made a compelling case for Bumrah, Fidel, you're saying Rabada certainly ahead of him?
I would say Rabada. Rabada hasn't had the greatest last, I think, year or so, but I think just we've seen the quality from him everywhere. So for that reason, I would say Rabada is maybe not a definite pick, but someone who should very, very strongly be considered. And then if it was down to between if we're looking for a left armer and a left arm angle, I would almost pick Wagner over Bolt. As big of a fan as I am of Bolt, Wagner just for someone who gives you something completely different.
I think I'd go with Rabada for sure, just because again, he apart from the last year, he's had a longer body of work in which he has been phenomenal. He plays so often for South Africa that probably has affected him this year. But I'd go with Bolt, because if there's swing out there, then I would want somebody to be able to take advantage of it. And I think Bolt, is as best placed as anybody in the world to take advantage of any kind of swing in those conditions.
Well, the name hasn't come up yet, and I'm sort of expecting no one to agree with me, but I would go Hazelwood. I don't know. There's not much that Hazelwood can't do. I think he's a hugely underrated cricketer. I have to say, I went through the stats. They didn't make an utterly compelling case. I mean, they're very, very good, obviously. But just from having watched him and Rabada quite a lot of late, I would pick him. But look, they're both brilliant cricketers. Rabada at his best might be better. That's true.
I'm willing to give Rabada a little bit of a free run for the last 8 months, because there was a stat, I think, that some of the South African journalists dug up during the World Cup or just after it about, Rabada's still, 24? About the number of balls, bowlers had bowled at that age in international cricket. And Rabada was by far, this is through the history of cricket, by far had bowled the most number of deliveries by that age. And that's because essentially the quota system in South Africa means that Rabada has to play virtually every match. Sort of, he's the kind of bowler, like, if you've got a good track, if you've got a track that helps bowlers, especially there's some bounce in the track, Rabada is much more likely to run through an opposition. Hazelwood would too, to an extent, but I would back Rabada over Hazelwood to make use of good conditions.
I think, for what it's worth, I would agree that at their best, Rabada's ceiling is probably higher.
Now, should we just run through the bowling attack as a whole? That might make it a little easier. Nathan Lyon, does any spinner in the world make a case stronger than Nathan Lyon to be part of this team?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'd go Ashwin ahead of him.
Ashwin's just purely statistically, Ashwin's numbers, and especially if there's a test match played in Asia, I don't think there's any doubt that Ashwin is the better option.
Yeah, I think the problem with Ashwin has been that he's faded away physically, I think.
Yeah.
There's been a few injury concerns, so he's faded away physically on each of these tours, which has affected him. But I think he has improved as a bowler overseas, and it's not like his record is very lopsided still. But that's also because his record at home is like magnificent. It's beyond. It's almost like legendary, that record at home. I don't know. It's a difficult one for me. I wouldn't be too unhappy if we went with either pick. I would think though, the promise of Ashwin's batting, maybe, because we're modern selectors and we always want to plump the side full of batting options.
I think Ashwin's strike rate is significantly better. He's taking a wicket every 50 balls and Lyons every 61 balls. His average is also 7 better. Look, personally, I'd go Ashwin.
Okay, to simplify things, if we are going to pick 12 and we are going to pick a test team that would win everywhere, you think the extra room is to accommodate an extra spinner? When you will have to play 2 spinners.
But not 2 off spinners.
Not 2 off spinners?
Yeah, not 2 offies.
Let's seal this. Cummins is in. Is everyone happy on Rabada then? George, are you convinced on Rabada?
I'm amazed that Bumrah's not going to be in it. If he's not in it, I'm really surprised. But Rabada, he's obviously a
Let's
super
put
cricketer.
Rabada in there. So that covers 7, 8, 9. That's 9. So who are we finally putting in our last 3? Nathan Lyon makes it, or we're not there yet?
I'd go Ashwin. If I'm pushed to make a selection, I'd go Ashwin.
Ashwin for Osman. George?
Yeah, me too.
Wow. Fidel?
Yeah,
right.
definitely Ashwin.
Now we've got 10 with Ashwin. Now we've got 2 spots. Does Hazelwood claim his spot? George has made a strong case for him. Osman, Fidel? In a 12-member team.
I think we need a left-arm fast bowler in there. Wagner's strengths are really in the second innings where, you're hunting for wickets, trying to close down a game. He does that so often and so successfully. He doesn't have that body of work in other parts of the world, and he's very much a New Zealand kind of based bowler. So for that reason, possibly Bolt gets in. But, there's also Stark, who we haven't talked about at all, who could give you that angle as well. So, but I do think that a left armer is necessary.
I'd go with Bolt. As I said earlier, I'd go with Bolt over both of them, I think.
Personally, if it came down to a choice between Bumrah and Bolt, I'd go Bumrah. But if you want a left armer, I'd probably go with Bolt.
So we've got a 2 versus 1. We've got Bolt in and no Wagner. Does that mean Hazelwood goes out as well? Because we have one more spot. Are we locking Trent Bolt in?
No, how are you counting this team? I thought we have 11 now, don't we, with Bolt?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we do. We have 11 with Bolt, but we're picking a 12-man team, so we've got that one more spot.
So we're going for the 12th man. Are we forgetting Holder as the 12th man? Maybe, I don't know.
Don't you need a second spinner?
Yeah, that was the argument.
Yeah, I would say the second spinner would be the 12th. I would say.
Well, just bring Jadeja in already and finish it off.
Yeah,
spinner.
Oh. Jadeja is not a bad pick at all, actually.
Thank goodness.
Left arm, bit of SLA as well, although it's not very slow. And in the field, I'd have him in the side just for his fielding alone. Phenomenal. So yeah, Jadeja is not a bad choice for me for the 12th man.
Well, for number 12, yeah. George, happy with that?
He won't. Well, he certainly wouldn't let you down. I mean, he never bowls badly, really, does he? Decent batsman, incredible fielder. He wouldn't be my first choice, but he's obviously a really good cricketer. I've got no problem with that.
Very well. That completes our 12. Jadeja will just sneak in the 12-member squad. Trent Bolt, Rabada, and Pat Cummins, along with Ben Stokes, would be the pace attack. Ashwin is the preferred spinner over Nathan Lyon. Quinton de Kock preferred by our panel over BJ Watling. The middle order picks itself in Kane Williamson, Steve Smith, and Virat Kohli. And the openers. Dimut Karunaratne, solid test opener, left-hander. And Rohit Sharma.
We have to make one kind of crazy choice in the 11. And I think the thing with Rohit is that potential. Like we all want to see him play one of those one-day innings at the top of the order in a test match. So I think you have to allow for like a little bit of romance, like a little bit of
fantasy, basically.
So where's your romance gone when you had to pick Bumrah in this team? Where he doesn't have a body of work. You want to wait and see how he's done in Asia. But for Rohit, there's romance.
No. To be fair, we did say at the start of this that it is more to do with the complete lack of compelling options in opening. Fast bowling, there are options out there. With openers, there are not.
And one last question. Who's captain of this side? We've got Williamson. We've got Kohli. Smith is available and eligible for leadership roles now. Do we have a captain, George?
Yeah.
I'd go Williamson because he's done
Williamson.
more with.
Williamson?
I'd go with
Yeah. He's fantastic, isn't he?
The thing is, if you pick Kohli as captain, he won't play Ashwin. So just leaving you with that one. Right. and on that note, thank you very much. Osman, Fidel, George, stay safe, take care, and we will be back with more of this on Dream Team.